Hey everybody, my name is Brandon, aka the Brando Critic, and today we are discussing quite possibly my favorite James Bond film ever, Skyfall. This was the movie that turned James Bond from a series that was kind of cool and I was kind of interested in to one of my favorite film franchises ever. I saw this movie 4 times in the theater, and that's a record for me. It's actually it's tied with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and don't even ask me why I've seen that movie 4 times. This movie works, in my eyes, because it is the perfect balance between the classic Sean Connery, Goldfinger, 007 James Bond movies, and the gritty, realistic, or somewhat realistic, 21st century era of Daniel Craig James Bond movies. It's the perfect blend. And everything in this movie, everything you can dissect, the acting, the action, the cinematography, the directing, the soundtrack, every single part of this movie that you can just take out piece by piece, the sound editing, the production design, everything. If you look at it piece by piece, it is the best. I do think this is the best James Bond movie. And I know that if you ask me on a certain day, I'll say either Casino Royale or Skyfall. From a technical standpoint, Skyfall takes the cake. But out of all those little pieces I mentioned earlier, my 2 favorites, and the reason why I think this film is propelled above all the rest, the acting and the action. Judi Dench, Ralph Fiennes, Ben Whishaw, Daniel Craig, they all do a great job. However, I think for the first time, or one of the only times, James Bond has an Oscar-worthy performance with Javier Bardem as Mr. Silva. He is my favorite James Bond villain. He pulls off the perfect blend between charming, sophisticated, former British agent with just terrifying, sinister, menacing Bond villain. One time he can just be so charming, "Ah, Mr. Bond, do you like the island?" I can't do his accent, but he'll just be like, "Oh, hello," and he kind of like comes on to him in one scene, and then he'll there's one part in particular where he has a certain character at gunpoint, and he just breaks down. He's like, "Oh, I'm finally gonna do it," and it's just, it's menacing, and he's so freaking good. He elevates this movie to a whole nother level. And in terms of the action sequences, this film opens with probably my favorite James Bond opening action sequence ever. The chase through Istanbul and the chase on the motorcycle and the train. It is superb action filmmaking. Unlike Quantum of Solace, where you can't tell what's going on, this film sucks you in right away, and I knew watching it on IMAX opening night, I'm like, I'm gonna love this movie, because everything I'm seeing is just blowing my mind. And the one scene where I saw it and I'm like, yep, this is probably the most beautiful movie I've ever seen in my life, was the Shanghai fight. When they're fighting and all you can see is their silhouette next to the Shanghai towers, and it's all blue, and you see some octopus or jellyfish playing in the background on the giant TV, and all you see are their silhouettes, and one of the guys has a gun and he shoots up, and then the muzzle flash lights them all up for a second. I'm like, this looks so freaking cool. And like I said before, Sam Mendes, I think, was probably one of the best directors that the James Bond franchise ever had, because he can make a damn good movie, and he can make a movie look amazing as well. And yes, it's Roger Deakins as cinematographer, and he does an amazing job in every movie that he does. So again, that pair can make a really damn fine looking movie. And on top of that, the chase through the London Tube and the confrontation at Skyfall, James Bond's home. Again, it's just some of the best action we've ever seen in a James Bond movie, and some of the best action I've ever seen in an action movie, period. So, best acting in a James Bond movie, best action in a James Bond movie, it's the perfect combination. This movie is fantastic. But they're not done there. Like Casino Royale, dived into the character of James Bond and asked the questions like, what does it do to a man's soul to be a secret agent with a license to kill? Like, you look someone dead in the face, and then you can decide whether or not they live. This film, on the other hand, goes back to James Bond's roots. They don't necessarily say, hey everybody, James Bond was an orphan and his parents died when he was young and that's why he's a secret agent. No, it just subtly implies, when he's being interrogated by Silva, he's just like, doesn't take well to authority because of unresolved childhood trauma. And kind of looks at him like, And so you know that this story is gonna kind of hit home to James Bond. And in the final confrontation in his house, you can just see in Daniel Craig's performance that, you know what, this isn't just some mission. This isn't just some like Mission Impossible, like if you choose to accept this mission. You know, it's not about some terrorist on the other end of the world. This hits home for James Bond. And spoiler alert, when the car gets destroyed, the look on Daniel Craig's face, he's just like, you know some serious shit's about to go down. And again, the directing of that scene and the way it's shot and how dark it is, but then like how when the fire starts to blaze, how everyone is starting to be lit in really luscious reds and oranges, and you can see the fiery determination in everyone's face and just like the hatred between both of them. It's great. It is so entertaining and so well filmed. It's amazing. Skyfall is amazing. James Bond is so engaged in that scene, and so are we. And we are engaged from beginning to end because Skyfall is a 5 out of 5 movie. It is probably one of my favorite films ever made. And yes, you can exchange Skyfall and Casino Royale depending on the day you ask me, but the more I think about this movie, the more I'm just looking at my notes right here and talking about it, I just get more pumped up because like, this movie is just so freaking good. I love it so much. So if you're gonna see one James Bond movie, only one, I think Skyfall is the one to choose. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you've seen here and want to see more, definitely hit like and subscribe. And who do you think is the best James Bond? Is it Daniel Craig, Pierce Brosnan, George Lazenby? Who knows? Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate every single one of you who likes, comments. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.